Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user PainComfortable8891. Am I the a-hole for refusing to continue providing free childcare for my stepdaughter? I did a work program with the local clerk of court's office when I was in high school. They hired me when I graduated and I had my 30 service years before I turned 50. With 30 service years, you can get your full pension at any age. I worked until my first grandchild was born. Then I retired to be grandma daycare. I have 5 grandkids in total, including my stepdaughter's baby. 8 male from my stepson, 7 male from my son, 5 female and 18-month-old male from my daughter. I babysat all of them with no issues or complaints. I still keep the 18-month-old Monday to Friday and the older ones summer and school holidays. My stepdaughter and her boyfriend have been non-stop drama since before their baby was born. When she was 10 weeks pregnant, they presented a 3-page list of rules for when I would be babysitting. They said if I didn't sign it, they wouldn't allow me to babysit. I said that I understood their need to do what was best for their baby, and I assured them that there would be no hurt feelings on my end when they made other childcare arrangements. Some of the rules were almost understandable, but most were downright ridiculous and none of it was going to work for me. I don't remember them all, but some examples are: I can't take the baby anywhere without their permission. I can't watch more than 1 additional child while babysitting. I can't cook. I had to provide the full name, date of birth, and address of any potential visitors ahead of time for their approval of the person being around their child. But that wasn't all. They also had to know anytime I have a guest over and know who it is and how long they stay. My 90-year-old cat would have to be kept out of rooms where the baby would be, even when the baby wasn't there. I couldn't get another pet without their agreement. Now, when she was 7 months along, they came back with revised rules in an attempt to compromise. I again let them know that their expectations were not going to fit with my life and they should just find other childcare. 2 days after my stepdaughter went back to work, she called and asked if I could keep Cullen, the baby, the next day. I agreed, but made it clear that I was going to provide safe, appropriate care according to my judgment, and I wasn't going to deal with complaints or whatever that I was violating their rules because I wanted it very clear that I was not agreeing to any of that. My stepdaughter was okay on the days she picked Cullen up and dropped him off. I did feel like she was interrogating me every time she picked him up, but it was tolerable. But her boyfriend was downright rude. I got to the point where I actually spent Sunday dreading the start of the week because of dealing with both of them, but especially his behavior. At minimum, he'd pick Cullen up, make a big deal of partially undressing him, make at least one snide comment about my cat or if I had any grandchild over besides the 18-month-old or if I had cooked or whatever. Then he'd say, "I guess we don't have any choice but to put up with this for now," or "I guess you are happy that you won." This went on for 4 months. I spoke to my stepdaughter several times about it and told her that obviously they are very unhappy with how I cared for Cullen and that they should really work on finding something else and that in the meantime he needed to be less vocal about it. It would get better for a day or two and then he'd start again. It all came to a head as Thanksgiving was approaching. He was very verbal about the fact that he didn't want me to keep all my grandchildren over the break. I made it very clear that there would be a couple of days that I had all of them and that they needed to make other arrangements if they had a problem. They didn't make other arrangements, and when he picked Cullen up on the first day that I had all my grandkids, he was very rude. Although nothing happened, everyone was happy, clean, fed, had a great day, he said to Cullen, and he was sorry that he had no choice except to leave him in an unsafe situation to be neglected. I called my stepdaughter that night, relayed to her what was said, and told her that she had 2 weeks to make other arrangements and that she needed to drop off and pick up Colin during those 2 weeks. And if her boyfriend came to drop him off, I would refuse to keep him, and if he picked him up, I would not keep him again. So things were better only dealing with her. At some point, she asked me if I would keep him until January because they found someone, but he couldn't start until then. I agreed. She picked Cullen up and dropped him off, and everything was fine. New Year's Day, several people sent me a screenshot of a post her boyfriend made on social media about how thankful he was that they were finally able to leave Cullen without worrying about his safety or him being neglected. He didn't outright name me or accuse me of anything specific, but anyone who knows us knows I was keeping him, and the post implied plenty. I was just happy that it was over. Then Friday, she called me and said that their new childcare provider had told her that Cullen wasn't a good fit and that she couldn't bring him back on Monday. She asked if I could start keeping him again. I told her that I was sorry for their situation, but I really don't feel comfortable keeping him. My husband and stepson both think I should watch Cullen under the agreement that Amanda drop him off and pick him up because they think her boyfriend is the big problem and that I should just do it for Cullen's sake. My stepson also commented that I'd probably be more willing to let it go if it had been a conflict with my daughter's husband. My pension is about $4,000 a month plus continuation of my health insurance. That's about 40% of our take-home income if that matters. Am I the a-hole for refusing to start watching Cullen again? Wow, OP, imagine that, being extremely rude to somebody and then being surprised when they don't want to do a favor for you. No, OP, you are not the a-hole, they were out of line and now they're trying to backpedal. Also, your stepson's comments kind of imply some sort of favoritism there, which doesn't seem to be the situation at all. You're a grandma to all those kids and enjoy watching them, just not with the craziness. So I don't know what he's on about, but it's also rude. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Teresa JS says, not the a-hole. You shouldn't put yourself through this for Cullen's sake. Cullen will get cared for regardless. There's no need for you to set yourself on fire because your stepdaughter and her boyfriend can't behave like normal human beings. Your husband and stepson are welcome to offer free childcare and put up with this treatment if it's important to them, but you've done your time. Learn from that experience and don't let yourself be put in the same situation again. Independent Thinking Mom says, not the a-hole. I read that gaslighting runs deep in that crowd. You were so good with boundaries. Now they slandered your name, called you unsafe and unfit until they need you again. If your husband and stepson want to help them, they should. I'm guessing the example of your daughter and son-in-law doesn't include public shaming on Facebook. P.S. Those demands are nonsense and pretty funny considering they can't figure out their own lives but want to run your retirement. Good luck because God forbid that baby gets mobile and bumps their head or some other minor issue comes up. And Wedding Fickle 6513 says, not a good fit. The child wasn't the problem. The parents showed out for the new provider and found out how a daycare handles that. You are taking a huge personal risk if you continue watching the child as is. They are willing to accuse you of abuse on social media. What's next? Making a police report? You need to write up your own contract with your rules and boundaries. Make sure to include the weekly fee for your services. Huge smiley face. Has your husband seen the social media posts slandering you? They want au pair services for free. Additional information from OP's comments. My mom was my rock, and her helping with my kids helped me so much financially. My kids had such an amazing relationship with her. I wanted to do that for my children and grandchildren. I'm in my 50s. I love keeping my grandkids. I retired on purpose so I could babysit them. I am doing exactly what I want to do. My stepson's child is the oldest. I literally retired to watch his child for free. I could have just kept working and waited until my biological children had babies if I was favoring anybody. I also like keeping my other grandchildren. No way I'll stop watching my 18-month-old grandson. He'll be with me until he starts kindergarten. I really don't know what goes on in my stepdaughter's house. She and I aren't close, so she wouldn't confide in me if there was a problem, but I don't think he's abusing her. They make roughly the same salary, so I doubt either of them could afford to stay at home, and I doubt that he wants a stay-at-home mom. I don't meddle in their affairs, but they seem to spend a lot of money relative to their salaries. Plus, I pay for whatever I do with my grandkids. I keep clothes, diapers, wipes, and whatever else they need at home. So the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, and her additional information just tells us what an awesome grandma she is. So now, let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. First, let me just address the common suggestion that my stepdaughter's, Amanda's, boyfriend is purposely sabotaging their childcare to trap her at home. As I said in my comments on the last post, they make roughly the same amount of money and definitely can't afford to lose half their income. I seriously doubt he wants her to stay home. Second, I would never tell my stepson to find someone else to watch his child because of a simple difference of opinion. My grandson and I have a very close bond. He's the oldest, and it would break my heart and his if he didn't come spend his holidays and summers with me. Plus, he's a huge help with the little ones when I have them all and things get hectic. I would never be so petty as to make him and all of my other grandchildren suffer because of an adult disagreement. Now, the update. So, I sort of asked around why they were dropped by their new sitter so quickly. Apparently, they weren't. Amanda picked Cullen up and dropped him off both days he went, and everything was lovely. He did cry quite a bit, but they expected that to get better as he adjusted to not being held as much. My husband and stepson talked to Amanda, and she said that they realized that they can't afford daycare. They already made the easy changes, packing a lunch, giving up fancy coffee, etc. And his dad and her mom are both giving them about $100 a month towards childcare, and still they can barely afford it. However, they didn't realize that you have to send everything the baby needs. While I buy diapers, wipes, formula, bottles, extra clothes, etc. They just hand me the baby. They just didn't realize that daycare didn't cover all of that. Also, my husband and I agreed that he wouldn't give them a penny when they first started giving me issues. This means that he most certainly cannot pay for Cullen's childcare. It's a line in the sand, and I'd probably file for divorce if he crosses it. Now, imagine her boyfriend's surprise when he found out what the staffing rates are in this very expensive childcare. One adult cares for 5 infants. I guess he thought that someone would provide one-on-one care, diapers, wipes, and formula for $350 a week. They had lots of diapers from Amanda's baby shower. Eventually, they used them all, but by that time, he was with me 5 days a week from 5:30 in the morning until one of them picked him up, usually 4:30 to 5. They never had to buy a whole week's worth of diapers. They probably didn't give much thought to how many diapers he used at my house or how much formula he had and how much it all cost. Still, actions have consequences, and there's not a chance I will watch him again. They can take turns staying home from work because I will not keep him. They will absolutely not drop him off to me. I will absolutely never babysit him ever, under any circumstance, no matter what. I will not watch him in a house. I will not watch him with a mouse. I will not watch him in a box. I will not watch him with a fox. I will not watch him here or there. I will not watch him anywhere. I really can't say if Amanda's boyfriend has had any kind of change of heart or if he's sorry. My stepson and husband spoke to Amanda and possibly him and relayed my message. I haven't spoken to them directly since I found out Amanda lied about Colin being kicked out of daycare. I honestly don't care if he's sorry or not at this point. Being sorry that you got caught and have a consequence is different than reflecting on your actions and realizing you were wrong and have real remorse. If he ever gets to that point, we can have a heart-to-heart. Still, they went as far as lying and saying he was kicked out of daycare to manipulate me into taking him back. When I refused and they had no other choice, they started selling stuff to pay for daycare. Anyway, my stepson relayed their almost apology. They felt overwhelmed by an infant and couldn't imagine that someone else could manage that plus other things. Cullen is going back to daycare tomorrow. Cullen's dad is selling his dirt bike, and Amanda is selling some designer clothes, handbags, and shoes to cover the costs. It'll get easier for them in 6 months when he transfers to the 1-year-old class, which is a little cheaper. They are also probably going to have to trade in their Escalade and Challenger and get cheaper cars before they run out of stuff to sell. Well, OP, I guess there would be a link to your post next to the definition of effing around and finding out. Good for you for not allowing them to manipulate you and sticking to your guns. As you said, actions have consequences, and now it's on them. I think it'll be a good lesson in humility. Thanks for sharing, OP, and take care. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Cryptic Fan. Need justification to purchase a box of tissues? You got it! In my early 30s, I, now 40 female, worked for a university as a project manager. We were state-funded, and therefore every nickel of spending had to be run through our department accountant, who was not terribly well liked. She was very nitpicky, would demand documentation on some expenses but not others, and would be very condescending when she had to send stuff back for correction, also known as done it to her liking. It had nothing to do with being correct. Rumor had it that she only got and stayed in her position because she was related to a board member. That being said, I got used to her shenanigans pretty early and just did my best to get my purchases through her as quickly as possible so that I could continue my projects. About a year into my employment, I was handed a project that had been initiated by our director. It was a 5-year training program that was described to me as the director's baby. My manager got it off the ground and then passed it to me to maintain for the remainder of the program. I threw myself into this program not only because I enjoyed what I did, but also the director was cool as hell. I'm still friends with him on social media, and I wanted the program to succeed for him. I had a project coordinator that worked with me for detailed stuff like ordering supplies and working with faculties. My focus was on budget, content, and working with the clients. After she and I had run several successful training sessions under this new program, we needed to order more supplies of standard training stuff like pens, notepads, name tags, etc. Something else we regularly used, per the director's requests, was boxes of tissues, which for some unknown reason was not something we could get from our office supply vendor. My coordinator had been buying them in bulk at a warehouse store with her purchase card and then storing them in the basement, only taking what we needed for each training session. When she went to submit the receipt for the new container of tissue boxes, the accountant laid into her about how tissues were not an approved purchase. Even when she showed the accountant an email from the beginning of the program showing that the director has requested tissues be provided to the participants, she stated that the director didn't make or enforce the purchasing policy, which is technically true. When my coordinator, who was normally a very bold and brassy lady, came into my office looking defeated and told me she was going to have to take the tissues back unless the accountant received sufficient written justification, I got pissed. I could have pushed the issue up the chain, but I didn't want to bother my manager or the director with this nonsense. Instead, I decided to do what I do best: be annoying. One thing I am good at is writing extremely detailed BS. I can elaborate on any detail, no matter how small. I'm especially good at it when I'm mad. So, I popped myself down in front of my computer and, in one go, wrote a 5.5-page email. We did a print preview to see exactly how long it was, on why we needed boxes of tissues for this program. I never put in there because the director said so, but I listed off every other possible justification and then wrote a mini essay on each of those points. My coordinator was sitting in the corner of my office giggling as she watched my hands fly over the keyboard. I sent the email around noon, just before quitting time. My coordinator stuck her head back into my office to let me know that the tissue purchase had been approved in our system. I never got a reply to my email. The accountant never said anything to me or my coordinator, but my coordinator never again got pushback on buying boxes of tissues. Well, OP, it sounds like you've got annoyance into compliance down as a skill set. Very well done for you and your project. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.